plans on asking any questions, I ask that you get in line behind that microphone now, so we can get that started when the time comes. All we ask is that there is no shipping questions. You refrain from shipping questions. Okay, well, first of all, Chris, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here. I know it's supposed to be me and David, and David had a personal issue come up, medical issue. He's okay, but he was unable to make it to the con this weekend. So you just get Eraserhead. So I really enjoyed seeing all the. I really enjoyed seeing all the great cosplay this weekend. It's been amazing. We have some Eraserheads in the room, I see. And wow, it's packed up there. So thank you guys for taking some time out of the day and come hang out with us for 30 minutes. This is awesome.
I'd like to start at the beginning, if it's okay with you.
Sure.
For those that don't know, how did you begin this career in voice acting?
Yeah, I mean, I was a theater actor. That's where most of us come from, some version of that. And so I was a theater actor as a kid. Mostly I was a huge problem as a kid. And theater was kind of a healthy outlet for my need for attention. And so I kind of went from there and studied media arts and radio, television, film. And once I got out of college, I knew I just wanted to work in radio or documentary film, and really didn't have anime and video games on my horizon at all at that point. I had a chance to audition for Funimation back in 2010.
Okay.
And I live in Dallas, so that's where Funimation was based. Of course, Funimation now is Crunchyroll. So got a chance to audition way back then, and got cast, and so I've just been chasing after it ever since, and it's been wonderful. I just noticed there was some news today, a show that I'm in called Kaiju number 8. Has anybody heard of this one yet? Just announced season 2 is in production. So yeah, so that's exciting.
Job security is always exciting.
I know, that's always good news. It's like people ask, like, what's your favorite role? I'm like, just the one that I get to do, that I get to go do. It's hard to choose a favorite, but anyway, so that's kind of where I came from.
What's the draw for anime for you?
I mean, when I was in college, I had a college job delivering pizzas for Pizza Hut, and fantastic college job because you get a lot of free pizza. Highly recommend it. And at night, my friend and I, who we both roommates together, both worked at Pizza Hut, we would turn on a show called Toonami.
Sure.
And that was kind of my introduction to a lot of these shows. And Cowboy Bebop was really high on my list. It's still my favorite anime to this day. And so we would just watch these crazy cartoons is what we really thought of them as. And they were so interesting because they were so grown up. You know, the themes were like so adult, and people would actually die and stuff. It's like, wow, this is crazy that these cartoons are so advanced, you know? And so in the back of my head, I think a seed was planted, like maybe someday if I ever got a chance. At that time, I didn't even know that Funimation was in Dallas, so it was literally like 16 miles away from my house, and I had no idea. So right place, right time, I guess. So much of life is that. And then of course video games. I've just been playing video games my whole life. And I got a chance to be a part of a Final Fantasy property last year called Final Fantasy War of the Visions. It's a game you can play on your phone, so it's one of those mobile games. And I got to be a bad guy in the Final Fantasy universe, so that was really
People
awesome.
carrying around in their pockets.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Evil dude named Dialdo. That was a lot of fun. And so, yeah, I don't know, I didn't really have a plan necessarily to do this. It just kind of happened, and I'm so glad that it did.
I'm curious, I've spoken to a few other anime voice actors about this too. Steve Blum being one of them.
Yeah.
The cadence and pacing of Japanese is very different than American,
For sure.
than in English.
Absolutely.
How do you rectify that while still giving a strong performance?
Yeah, so the technical aspect of acting in dub stuff is really a steep learning curve if you come from theater, like I did.
Right.
Because so much of what you're doing in the theater is connecting in this big way with a huge room full of people. You have to be heard by the person in the very back of the room. You know, you've got to develop a lot of that projection and that presence. And then you get into a booth and you're literally just in a little room and you're like, there's no energy. You know, there's a director and an engineer and there's no energy being given to you at all by an audience. And so it's a very strange. Then on top of that, you add to it that there are two screens in front of you. One of them has, you know, the anime, the cartoon. The other one has the script. And there's going to be 3 beeps that happen in your headphones, and that's where you need to start saying your lines so that it fits with the mouth flaps. We call them flaps in the industry. And so you may have a line, to your point, where it's like really overwritten or something, and so you feel like you're having to say the line really fast, like, we've got to meet there at midnight, and if we don't do it, we're going to run out of time. What do you think about that? Like that's the old trope of like the anime dub from the 60s, like Speed Racer and that kind of stuff. These days, we have amazing adaptive writers that are able to take a lot of the Japanese dialogue and translate it into something that is really good for a Western audience, good for a Western ear. Doesn't sound weird to people, is the goal. We want it to sound very cinematic, very real. So our performances are always an attempt to do something authentic and real. And that's the challenge, is like trying to fit it into the mouth, which is, it's like, that was a great performance, you didn't quite get it in the mouth. Like, we've done that a lot. I had some scenes with Aizawa in particular where he was running through a forest and he was holding this little boy named Koda, and so he's running away from the villains and he's trying to protect this kid. And so he's running, he's got breathing flaps, right? So he's like, but he's talking also. So he's like reassuring this poor kid that everything's gonna be okay. And I think we must have done that like 10 times. We got to the end of that and I turned to my director and I said, please don't fire me today. I know I can get this. Because I would either get the running right and I would kind of lose the intensity with the acting, or I'd nail the acting and I wasn't quite getting the breaths right with the running. And so we were getting really close every time. And sometimes it can be difficult. And then add to it that Japanese is, I don't speak Japanese, right. So a lot of times these names that we run into are also very difficult to pronounce. Sure. And you have to pronounce them while emoting or while in a very intense moment, but you can't put a lot of emphasis on it. So if you're talking to somebody, for example, and their name is like Sukamichi, you can't be like, but you and I are going to get through this, Sukamichi. You have to really make it part of the performance, and it's very natural. It's Sukamichi. It has to roll off the tongue. It has to be believable and real. And so it's a strange skill set, and the only way to develop it, for me anyway, was to just do a lot of it and just do as much as I could.
Is there any particular kind of voice directing that you like from your producers and directors, or is there something, how do you like to be directed?
Well, it's nice to be directed by people who've done it, and I've been very fortunate that I get to work at Crunchyroll. There's a lot of directors there are actors, they come from this world, and so they understand the difficulties of trying to create a real moment and connect with a character, and also have all these technical hurdles that you have to get through. So they get that, and so that's very enjoyable. But at the end of the day, we all got into this because it's fun, right? And so it's also good to have directors that can have fun with it and make it a fun session, and I really appreciate that too. Sense of humor. It's good to have a sense of humor, especially in a show where your character's getting his leg cut off and he's losing his eye, and it's like, this is already serious enough. Let's try to enjoy ourselves if we can. We do that a lot.
Are there any particular types of characters that you're drawn to?
Well, I mean, when I first started off,
or is it just a paycheck?
It's partly that. I mean, I have 3 kids and I have a mortgage, and so I got to pay the bills. But I got into this because I really enjoy acting. So I really wanted to pursue being an actor. And then, like I said, this whole thing is kind of just, I didn't expect to be able to do this. And so I'm glad that I can. But yeah, early on, I felt like I was getting cast a lot as, the 20-something protagonist kind of guy. Like, my first lead role was a show called Laughing Under the Clouds. And I play a guy named Tenka Kumo, and he's kind of just a, devil may care, whatever's gonna happen's gonna happen, kind of guy. And so I kind of got several roles like that. And then I did a couple roles where I was just a walk-on villain, and then the directors were like, oh, he can do some villain stuff. So then I ended up doing a lot of characters like this for a while. They're really like arrogant, stuck up, very certain that they're going to win sort of villain, I'll explain my entire nefarious plan to you right now, that kind of guy. And then with Aizawa, that was 2016 or 17, and that was kind of a dad character. So, and so I got cast as a lot of dads there for a while, just protective, sort of loving, a guy with a lot of heart kind of character. Here recently in Kaiju number 8, I'm playing a dad, and kind of the head of the Kaiju Defense Force, so he's a little bit of both. Isao Shinomiya, and he has a really awesome fight against Kaiju number 8 in episode 11. You guys should check that out for sure. We can't oversell that show enough right now, apparently. And it just, it's really cool. I've got over 250 credits, and I've done that in just about 12 years, so it's been awesome.
What's your weekly schedule like? I mean, it seems like you're working a lot.
I mean, the life of a voice actor is very much just like the life of an actor. So, which is that it all kind of comes in waves, right? You get these waves of like, it seems like I'm getting cast in a lot of things, I'm booking a lot of stuff, and then you go through a month or two where it's like, oh, everyone forgot I existed. All right. But I do anywhere from 5 to 20 auditions a week, you know, depending on what that's like, and I have a great agent that sends those to me, and so each week I get in my booth at home and I just sweat my butt off trying to emote and create something that sounds real and that people can connect with. And I'm also the voice of, you know, I do a lot of commercial VO too. So if you know the restaurant chain Carl's Jr., so I'm the voice of Carl's Jr. If you ever see the commercials or you hear anything on the radio, and the catchphrase that I say a lot for the last couple of years is, "Eat like you mean it." So if you ever hear that, that's me. And you know, that's the kind of stuff that really pays the bills, and it's fun too, but it's fun on a different level. But really my job is auditioning, you know, so all week long I'm just auditioning and getting rejected.
I've been able to interview a handful of voice actors. I asked them the same question. And it's not as relevant to anime or even or video games to a certain extent. What are your thoughts on stunt casting?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there's a place for it for sure. And by stunt casting, I think you mean like, let's get a really big name and let's put them in there.
Right. Over someone like yourself who's a seasoned voice actor.
Sure, I think there's a place for it. You know, these days, especially with the movie industry being what it is out in Hollywood, like it's really, really hard to make anything that doesn't make $1 billion or $500 million or whatever their target is. And so I sort of understand it from just a dollars and cents perspective. It's like we're going to get some level of built-in marketing that we aren't going to have to pay for as a studio, right, if we hire David Schwimmer to do this or whoever it is, you know, versus Chris Wehkamp, because he's got amazing name and face recognition that Chris Wehkamp doesn't.
I'd love to see that project when he's getting it over you.
And so, yeah, I mean, I understand it from a business perspective, but also there are those times when you will go see a movie or you'll see a show and you're kind of like, man, you can sort of tell like maybe the folks aren't quite invested in it the way you'd hope they would be, and so there can be that. But I'm often surprised. I mean, a lot of times I think these days, especially voice acting, is not some kind of niche thing anymore.
Right.
Like it's like almost everybody understands what it is and has heard of it, and maybe even has like a favorite voice actor, you know? So it's not, so I don't think it's necessarily the redheaded stepchild that it used to be. And so, so I kind of get why mainstream celebrities would want to be involved in it. And honestly, that helps me too, because now it adds a level of prestige to something that maybe it didn't have before. So it's kind of, you know, it's a good thing too. It can be.
Let's go to some questions. What do you got, sir?
So, Chris, my question is this, how do you feel of My Hero Academia having one more season left?
Yeah, man, I don't know how much is left, but I know they announced that there's another core coming for this current season. And so I think that means we're going to get maybe 24 episodes in this season? I don't know. I will say that somebody told me the other day that I guess the My Hero manga was created in 2014. So that means it's been out there for like 10 years, which is kind of mind-blowing that it's been 10 years already. Now, of course, the anime hasn't been out there as long as that, but I don't know, it's a lot of feelings, you know, related to it. It's been such a big part of my life for all this time, and maybe my kids will finally get interested in the show after it's not cool anymore. I don't know, because I've tried to sit them down and watch it many times. I'm just like, boring, okay, this is boring. They like the fights. Anytime that it gets to the point of like characters talking to each other, they're like, I'm sorry, Dad, I just don't want to watch this. I'm like, it's okay, it's okay, it's all right. I'm not going to force it on you, although I've tried unsuccessfully. So yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of feelings. Obviously, it's been a big part of my life. It's been a big part of all of our lives over the last decade, and I think Horikoshi is going to end it on a really good note. And it's also kind of like, you know, I think about Fairy Tail, which I'm in Fairy Tail. I play a character named Ren in the Blue Pegasus Guild. It was like one of my first early named roles in a big name anime back in 2012. And I remember talks started going around about like, oh, you know, Fairy Tail's ending. And like, oh, it's like everybody's like, oh, wow, this is the end of an era. And then what was it, like 3 years later, they're like, a new fairy tale is coming. So it's ending, right? I mean, but I don't know if these things ever really end in the way that we think about it in the West, maybe. You know, it's like there's always a chance it could come back. So we'll hope for a good ending, and maybe we'll see it again someday. You never know.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks.
No problem.
Hi, Chris. My question is, is there any characters that you auditioned for that you thought you did really good in, but you didn't get it? If there's anything like that?
There's a lot of things like that. Yeah, the reality of being a voice actor and just an actor is just getting really comfortable with not taking rejection personally, and developing what I guess people call a thick skin, maybe, but just really just being able to do your very best, release it into the world, and then know that you're probably never going to hear anything ever again. That's the life of this job. I will say there was a character, this was probably earlier in my career. I can't remember what year. I won't name the character, but I will say that I made it to the second round of auditions for the character, and it was a Dragon Ball character. And I was told that basically the licensor, which is like Toei, I think it's Toei, made the decision to go a different direction based on social media following. Wow. And that kind of hurt a little bit. And when I say kind of hurt a little bit, I couldn't sleep for quite a while. But that's also just the reality of the industry now. It's like, there's a really funny meme going around on TikTok and Reels where bands are like, putting out music videos where basically they're just saying like, the most important thing that we do as a band is make social media videos, not make music, and that sucks, but that kind of is just what it is right now. And being able to promote yourself, being able to, publicize the work that you're doing is a huge piece. And it's what I always tell people that are like, I want to be a voice actor. I'm like, do you have an Instagram, or do you have, because you need to start building that right now, even if you don't have any work. Like, you probably should start building like kind of a name for yourself. If nothing else, definitely lock down your name on all the social media platforms so that you can use it to promote yourself. And it's just a very different world than the one that I came up in as a theater actor. So that would kind of hurt, but at the end of the day, it's just like sports. Like, you get out there, you take your best swing, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You just wake up the next day and you do it again. That's all you can do. Thank you. Thanks for your question.
Hello, Chris.
Hi.
So I was wondering how you felt on like a fan thing with Aizawa.
Yeah.
So it's called Dadzawa.
Aizawa.
And it's basically, it's where Aizawa's like the adopted father of Shinso and Eri.
I think Aizawa would be a very good and protective father of both Shinso and Eri. And I think he would take very good care of them as long as they kept their rooms clean. It would be very important for them to do that.
But yeah, I think it's awesome. And I totally support the whole Dadzawa thing. I love talking to people about that. So y'all come chat with me about it anytime. I'll be here today and tomorrow at my table. Hi.
Hello. I noticed you've been around for a while, but rejection our part, so to speak. I actually acted here in theater. I did some modeling here, worked with some movies here. I built my portfolio up on that. Have you thought something controlled things where you'll be writer, director, and leave some legacy to your kids? And
So
have some more control?
I directed the last half of season 5 of My Hero. Assistant directed, and because our primary director was too covered up, too busy working on the movie. So I've had a chance to sort of dip my toe into ADR directing over the last couple of years. It's really fun, and it's really fun to work with talented actors. I mean, that's the best part. The best
Would you
part
be willing to work here?
I mean, maybe. I'm based out of Dallas, so and honestly, I don't really do a lot of on-camera stuff anymore. I used to do TV commercials when I was younger, and I didn't have all this gray hair and stuff. I did TV commercials for a couple fast food chains, when I was younger, and yeah, the reality of the on-camera, I tip my hat to all the on-camera actors, because the realities of that are like, we need you at 6:30 a.m. For this shoot, and you may show up at 6:30 with perfectly dressed and cleaned and ready to go, and it took you an hour to get there. and then you may sit there till 3 p.m. and then they go, we were wrong, we don't need you today. Like that's the reality that's the real reality of the on-screen talent. And so I have 3 kids, I have a wife, and it'd be very difficult for me to commit to that kind of schedule now. The best thing about voice acting for me right now is that it really works with like where I'm at in my life. So that's great. Now, if somebody came to me tomorrow, they're like, "We want you to be Batman," and this, I mean, something crazy.
Yeah.
I would have to go, okay, I'm going to do that, But my main focus is my kids and being there for them. And they're growing up so freaking fast, I can't believe it. And 2 13-year-old boys and a 9-year-old boy, so it's like life is very full in the best possible way right now. But best of luck. It sounds like you're getting work here. That's awesome.
Well, I did my audition recently with Rocky Horse Productions out in Winslow.
That's amazing.
So who knows?
I'm glad to hear that there's studios out here that are doing stuff. That's amazing.
Yeah, we have a studio right there on Elmwood, Niagara. That's built like a movie studio. It's coming to Elmwood, Niagara.
Yeah.
So I thought actually, if there's some actors here, I talked to them, voice acting, whatever it is, are they going to work here? Because we have that big studio coming right there on Niagara. So
Oh, big studio.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the studio. So
That's amazing.
good luck. See you. Stay blessed.
You too. Yeah. Break those legs. Hi, Kirishima. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Thank you. I was wondering, you do a lot of signings, appearances, autographs, pictures. What's the weirdest experience you've had with a fan?
Oh man. Mostly people are great. I would say I've traveled around a lot. I do. By the end of this year, I'll have done 24 appearances in 20 different places around America and Canada. 2019 was the most I ever did. I think I did 28 that year. That was too many. I learned that was too many. That was a bridge too far. So I tend to keep it around like 22 to 24 now. That's very manageable. Now I will say, most people are incredibly respectful and kind, and then there's a few people that aren't. And so I had an appearance one time where a woman just would not take no for an answer, and she was there with her daughter, and she came up multiple times kind of asking for more and more boundary crossing things. So, the first one was like, well, can I have a hug? Sure, no problem, here's a hug. She got an autograph and wanted a hug. Well, can my daughter have a hug? Sure. Then they came back later, she's like, my daughter's so shy. She would really like to get a picture with you, but she's really shy. And I was like, oh, well, have her take her time. I'm here all weekend, so it's, there's no rush. She's like, well, it's also her birthday. And I'm like, okay, you didn't mention that before, but okay, it's her birthday too. She's like, and she would love for you to be her first kiss. I was like, okay. We have now entered some very dangerous territory, and fortunately, I was still kind of early on the con circuit, but I was very not early in being able to say no to people. So I was just like, well, that's so kind and that's so wonderful, but I can't do that. And also, your daughter's like 14, and like this is just everything about it was a little bit weird. And so, but you just try to play it off. I've signed multiple chests, put it that way. And it tried to be tasteful about it, and usually the request is like, well, I'm going to get a tattoo, and it's going to be a tattoo of your autograph. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. And also, I want it on my left breast. And it's like, okay, how about your left upper chest? I could do that, maybe. And so we've I don't know. People are generally, it's a party atmosphere at the con, it's a fun time. And so sometimes people get carried away. I totally understand that. And most of the time people are super nice and respectful, and they're not at all like they are on the internet. Okay. In real life, thank goodness.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Hi.
Hi. I was wondering, you've had many iconic scenes as Aizawa throughout the seasons, and it's been a great time hearing your performances.
Oh, thank you.
But what is your favorite take of playing that part of Aizawa?
So I'll give you two answers. The one answer is I try to do this in every town I go to, at least once, sometimes multiple times. I've gone to multiple cities. They're like, oh no, he's going to do the thing again. And yes, I am. But it's my first time here, so this is the first time. I'm going to give you now my favorite line as Aizawa. He does it in almost every episode that he appears in. Are you guys ready? This is my favorite line. You guys ready? Yeah. All right, is everybody ready? Okay, here we go. Thank you. Thank you so much. Acting. Power of acting. So that's the joke answer. But it's also true, I do enjoy how generally put out he is all the time. That's fun. But from season 4, there's a moment where Aizawa has a kind of a heart-to-heart Dad Zawa type conversation with Izuku. And he tells him,
If you're going to go your own way, you're going to have to be careful. Do you hear me, problem child?
and that one just stuck with me, I guess. It's a very fatherly moment. I like those moments when Aizawa kind of reveals that despite the fact that these kids drive him crazy and get him killed, like he really loves these kids and he wants to protect them. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
All right, so do you ever work in a booth with other voice actors? How often? And who is your favorite person to work with?
So sadly, the answer is almost never. It's happened a few times, but most of the time we're in a booth totally alone, and which is extra tricky if you are the lead of a show. This is where your imagination as an actor really comes to the fore because you have no other dialogue to work off of at all at that point. So usually the leads are the people that go in first to record. And so you may come to a scene and there's like 3-4 different characters all talking to each other in the scene, and you only have 2 lines. So you're reading on the script, what are the other characters' lines? And then it comes to your line, beep, beep, beep. But why did he do that? That's it. And then you've got, there's 3 more lines from other characters, and then it comes to the end, beep, beep, beep. Get down, they're attacking us! That's your session for that day. Like it's very, like I said, it's a very weird sort of acting. And so it takes a lot of reps. Like you just have to be in the booth a whole lot to get to a place where you can be, number one, be comfortable with it and like deliver something that they can use. Number 2, be able to do it quickly, and then number 3, to be able to like kind of bring the characters to life, right, in a way that people want to listen to. So I wish I could act in the booth with other actors because some of these actors are amazing. Everybody who's in dub acting is really good at improv, because it's cold reading and improv. We don't ever get the scripts in advance. You show up that day, that's the script, you're going. You may get like 30 minutes, 20-30 minutes with the director if it's your first time with the character to kind of find the voice. Like let's try some things. But once you've locked it in, it's like we're going every week. The reality of simuldubs means that we get a lot of work, but it also means like if you want to take a vacation, you better not, because you're in like week 8 or whatever of doing a show, and your character shows up that week. Like you have to be there like to do it. So I will say one of my favorite actors of all time in the Dallas area for sure is somebody that I actually went to college with, a guy named Eric Vale. He's voiced many characters that you know of, but I did a show. He's Shigaraki in My Hero also. I did a show with him called Ace Attorney, and he was the voice of Phoenix Wright, and I was the voice of Miles Edgeworth. And so our director, this guy named Kyle, started recording our outtakes. We didn't know it. So we were just doing silly outtakes, cursing, all kinds of obscenities, all kinds of stuff that's like, and then he put it all on YouTube. So you can go on YouTube right now and look up Ace Attorney outtakes. You'll hear me, Eric Vale, Brian Massey, all these guys who really didn't know we were being recorded at the time, just going off and making fun of stuff and making fun of each other. And so we do have a lot of fun. It just doesn't typically get out there in the final product, hopefully, but yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your
We
question.
got time for one more question, I'm sorry.
You can go. Go ahead.
We can take 2 more, it's okay.
All right.
We'll make them quick.
Let's
Lightning
do it.
round.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
What's your dream dub role?
Dream dub role, does it have to be anime? Can it be anything?
Anything.
I want to be Batman.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. What is the best piece of life advice that you would give to Shota Aizawa?
To Shota, okay. He's a workaholic, and so he has. I really want to meet his parents. Like I would love to see little tiny baby child Shota Aizawa. He I think didn't get loved enough or something. I don't know. But he's definitely You know, like in the D&D world, which I used to play a lot of, like I think of him as like a paladin because
Oh,
he's
yeah.
just so committed to his code of like justice, raising these kids to be heroes, you know, protecting what is right, and in his lazy sort of way. And so I think I would just, the best advice I'd give him is like, find somebody who can love you, you know, and that you can love so that you can get something outside of just work in your life, right? I think he would be a lot happier if he had somebody that he could come home to that wasn't just his mangy cat. Yeah, thanks for your question.
Well, folks, please put your hands together.
I'm going to be here the rest of the day, and then I'll be here tomorrow too, up at my table. And there's a giant press of humanity up there, so I totally understand if you can't make it. But if you can, come hang out. We can chat some more. You can ask your questions if you didn't get to ask them this time. And thanks again for having me to Buffalo, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.